Hi, good morning, everyone. We are having today a lot of hot topics. I think the main topics is European defense. Last year we made a historical decisions that Europe is taking bigger responsibility of the NATO's conventional defense, and also we decided the NATO's defense planning process targets for each country. The plan is clear. We made also decisions on 5% spending target. So now we are assessing what is the development of each country. And everyone knows the urgency. We have to do a lot because after the Ukrainian war there will start kind of a tense situation in security between NATO and Russia. So and I think that we are on the right track, but there's a lot of work to be done for European allies and Canada. What comes to the Arctic, of course, from Finnish perspective, we have always kept the Arctic crucial for European security. But now we are really warmly welcoming the new focus to Arctic, because the Arctic defense and deterrence, that's not only security for Arctic allies, it's a security for whole alliance, also for North America, like United States officials and politicians have now said. So Arctic Center is a good start for that. But there has to be done a lot more also in that field. What comes to Ukraine, Russia is not showing any will to the peace. They are continuing the war, even though their economy has started to suffer heavily, and they are getting a lot of losses also in the battlefield. So I think now is the crucial time to keep on supporting Ukraine even more and show Putin that West is not dropping back. And also put harder sanctions to Russian economy, because they are now suffering. If we are putting more harder sanctions, that will send a clear signal that end the war now. Thank you. What? Well, we are now assessing that what is the overall kind of details of that regional spectrum, and also that because Arctic is a wide area. For example, Finland's defense forces are fully Arctic because our country is Arctic. Finland's southern sea area, Gulf of Finland, is fully in ice at this moment. Also, our 1,300-kilometer border with Russia, it's in fully snow and ice. So that's also an Arctic area. Scandinavian High North area is Arctic. And that's a wide area, so we have to assess now what is going to be inside this Arctic center. For example, in Finnish area, we are doing a lot of Arctic exercises every week. We are going to have in a couple of weeks a huge exercise, cold response with our Norwegian colleagues and a lot of allies in Lapland, in Finnish area.
Why is this not Arctic-centric? Why is this not just a rebranding of currently already existing exercises?
Well, we will be assessing that with SECUR, so I'm not taking any comments on details, but I think that the same method what was in the Baltic Century and Eastern Century also, that we are combining all the exercises from national side exercises, putting a lot of new technologies, capabilities, and getting comprehensive approach to those areas. That's a good way to have a kind of some kind of a more input in that field.
Will this also be enough to protect Greenland from US invasion?
Well, I think that all the NATO allies agree that NATO has to do a lot more for Arctic deterrence and defense. So I think we are at the same track on here.
What is Finland planning to get in terms of defense innovation from the exchange with Ukraine's president?
I think Federer is a great minister. His mindset is technology driven, and that's a good way to go forward. And Ukraine's technology and industry innovations are leading the whole European industry at this point. So we are also starting a deeper cooperation with Ukrainians in the industry and technology, especially in the drones. Yes. That's it.
Good morning, everybody. We are, of course, looking forward for today's defense ministerial meeting inside NATO. I think this is going to be an important stepping stone for Ankara meeting later on this summer. Let me say that Sweden is fully committed to reaching the 5% in defense investment already by 2030. I also foresee a lot of discussions today in regards to the alliance role and force posture in the Arctic, which is very natural since we're seeing that Russia has been stepping up its activities in the Arctic. Sweden certainly stands ready to contribute to an Arctic century. We are one out of 7 allies who are an Arctic country. We have assets and capabilities that we can bring to the table. In regard to that as well, Sweden is as the framework nation for FLF Finland. We are stepping up activities also when it comes to FLF Finland, and this is something we're doing in very close collaboration together with the host nation Finland. We are also, I foresee that during cold response in March we're going to be having a lot of activities that's also going to speed up the activities of FLF Finland, which is also part of the alliance force posture, so to speak, in the Arctic region. Finally, as well, of course, we also look forward to the NATO-Ukraine Council meeting today, and Sweden is also going to be announcing that we're going to do our 3rd Pearl package to the Ukraine. We think that Pearl is important in order to procure defense material from the Americans that we can send to the Ukrainian quickly, especially when it comes to air defense and interceptors for some of the air defense systems that we actually don't produce in Europe. Please, if you have any questions. Well, I think we need to step up activities there due to the Russian activities that we've been seeing growing. We also see China being more present there, predominantly with resource vessels. I think it's good if we think through what role the alliance should play up in the high north, of course, with Sweden and Finland now inside the alliance. I think it's natural that our focus also goes up more in the Arctic region. We're also drafting in Sweden a new Arctic strategy in order to be more cognizant and aware of, especially when it comes to situational awareness. I think that the assets and capabilities that we need for the Arctic predominantly are based on situational awareness. It can be space-based assets, or it could be maritime assets or aerial assets. Sweden has already contributed to doing exercises on Greenland with our home guard. Please. No, I think it's natural over time because we've been seeing that Russia has been resettling itself on some of the military infrastructure and facilities that they used during the Cold War. And then us, of course, being an Arctic country, we feel it's very natural for us to contribute. So that is very natural. We've been in very close dialogue also with Denmark in regard to Greenland on that one.
Greenland's minister is here today. The first time for a ministerial. Why did it take so long? I know Sweden hasn't been a member for very long. Yeah. Why does it take so long to bring Greenland to the table when Greenland has been the issue?
Well, I think that's a matter for Greenland and Denmark to discuss. I can just say that we had a very fruitful meeting a couple of weeks ago in the Nordefco format where both the Greenlandic foreign minister and, of course, the Danish defense minister was there. This morning, actually, where also all the 5 Nordics are meeting just after I'm done with this Doorstep. Last question, please, if any. No? Okay, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Þorgerður Katrín Gunnarsdóttir, coming from Iceland. Greetings from Iceland to you. It's good to be here in the NATO headquarters. I think we need now more unity than ever, and I would also say that unity is the center of gravity for the alliance. It's our biggest and most important strength. But it's hard work, and our transatlantic bonds must be kept strong, but it's also good to be realistic now during these times, and we are, from my point of view, we are seeing that NATO is inevitably changing, you could say so, but and we are seeing Europe stepping up, we are seeing Europe taking over more responsibility, more leadership, but I want to underline our most common strength is our transatlantic bond, and we have to keep that way. NATO is a transatlantic alliance, and we strongly support that.
Is Arctic Century a way of keeping that transatlantic alliance strong?
Excuse me?
Is Arctic Century?
Yes, I would say so. Absolutely. And we in Iceland, we have been. I've been a minister for over a year, responsible for foreign affairs and defense, and I've been here in this remarkable house advocating for more focus also on the northern flank, and Arctic Centre is doing exactly that, keeping the alliance strong in the North Atlantic and the Arctic area.
Do you think it's enough to satisfy the US administration?
I think it's an important signal. We are together in this. We are increasing surveillance and more military exercises there and missions. So yes, absolutely, that's a very strong signal that it's under the NATO umbrella. That is, from my point of view, also very important. That is done from NATO side, and also important for Iceland and security in all this region, important region.
Why is Arctic Century more than just a rebranding of power?
Maybe because of the word I said in the beginning, united. We are more, I think, from all the discussion, very heavy discussion, and we have been, I would say the alliance has been tested, especially in the beginning of the year, but we are now more united than in the beginning of the year, and it's not just the US and Denmark and Greenland that are focusing on enhancing the security in the North Atlantic. It's all the alliance, and that is really important. Thank you so much. Thank you. Excuse me? Yes. No, sadly for him, he is missing a good party, but of course it's always better that the ministers attend here, but I will not describe it as a bad signal. We have, as I said, from the beginning of this year, we have been tested, but I think now the alliance is stronger than in the beginning of the year, and you know, we are focusing now on the North Atlantic, but I want also to underline we cannot allow us to have a lesser focus on the eastern flank. Remember, Ukraine is fighting for Europe's freedom and sovereignty, so we have to support them and secure a long and just and lasting peace. Thank you so much.
Today it's a special occasion for me because it's my last NATO Defence Ministers meeting. I'm very happy that I can share with my colleagues today that the new government starts in 2 weeks and that we have 3.5% in our books. So over the next 10 years our defence budget will grow every year towards 3.5% in 2035. And I think that's very important because then we show that the commitment that we made at the Hague Summit that we are now implementing it with full force. In the meantime, of course, we also keep contributing to our defense and deterrence. Today I can announce that our mission in Romania with the MQ-9 Reapers, that we will extend it with half a year, which is very important for our situational awareness at the eastern flank. And second, we are very active as the Netherlands in the High North. We also participate in the exercise called Response at this time. And I think it's very important over the last few weeks that a lot of effort has been made to bring it all under one umbrella, Arctic Century, because we as the Netherlands, but I think many allies, we all share and we all agree that the High North is of strategic importance and that we all should make a contribution to our collective defense there. Finally, of course, we also will talk about support to Ukraine, which is more important than ever. Ukraine is facing a terrible winter, but we need to make sure that we get them through this winter and that we bring them in a better position towards the spring. Over the last few weeks, the Netherlands has provided hundreds of millions in drones and ammunition. Today I can announce that we will also send F-16 simulators because we keep helping Ukraine with their F-16 operations. and in the longer term, we also have the same level of support that we had over the last couple of years, around 0.25% for GDP. We also will have that in our books with the new government. So we can also share with our allies and partners that we do not only support Ukraine today and tomorrow, but also in the longer term. Of course, what we are doing right now is that we bring all the different efforts that we do in the High North, which many people are unaware of, we bring it under one umbrella, and I think that is important because we need to do it in a coordinated way. But of course there are also discussions ongoing what we should do in addition to that. And we are working on that. The Netherlands is also involved in those discussions. We are very open to also make further contributions, but of course it takes more time to work that out in more detail.
Would you see being like the foreign minister?
What I have experienced over the last 1.5 to 2 years is that I got hardly or no questions about the composition of our government and discussion that we have in the Netherlands. What our allies want to know is whether we deliver. Whether we deliver when it comes to our contributions to NATO and when it comes to our support to Ukraine. And I'm very happy that I can share with the new government that we will keep delivering on the commitments that we made. But it was also true for the last government. So that was the reason why I hardly got those questions. So the reason why I don't want to share too many details is because that's also, of course, valuable information for Russia. But what is important is that, of course, we gave the F-16s, the airframes, a few years ago. But it requires continuous efforts to make sure that Ukraine can use them as effectively as possible. And because the F-16s are used so intensely for mostly the air defense, of course it's very good if the pilots can practice as much as possible in a simulator and not in the airplane itself. So that's why this contribution is very important. But I don't share more operational details because we don't want to inform Russia. Mm-hmm. I think what for me is the most important is the no surprise policy that has been agreed between the NATO Secretary General and his team and the United States. We all have seen, of course, the security strategy and defense strategy of the United States. We know their priorities. NATO is one of them, but they want to put more effort in the Western part, the Western Hemisphere as they call it, and the Indo-Pacific. But as long as we do this through an open dialogue and we know what we can expect from each other, I think we can handle that very well. And what I know is that the conversations that are currently taking place are done in a very constructive way.
Do you find a question, please?
Can you say it once more? Sorry. At least what I understood, both from my Danish colleague, but also from NATO Secretary General, is that after Davos, of course, when this framework was agreed upon, this has been working out, the details are worked out in a very constructive way. So I think it's very good that now when it comes to Arctic Sentry that the various elements of that are further discussed and on the military side are worked out in more detail. And what I understand is that it's been done in a very constructive way, so that I'm fully confident that this will also meet the concerns of the United States, because it's also we share the same concerns. We do see the strategic importance of the High North and also the threat by Russia and also the interest of China in this area. So we need to make sure that we protect that.
Minister, are you tired of being one of the only countries
Good morning, I'll keep this brief. Yesterday I was in the High North, confirming that the UK is doubling its Marines and its major military exercises there. This morning I'm here at NATO, confirming that Britain will play a central part in NATO's Arctic security mission, Arctic Sentry, to strengthen security in the region. This afternoon, I'll be confirming that Britain is providing an extra £500 million in urgent air defence to Ukraine. This is Britain being a force for good in the world, building a new deal for European security within NATO. And I'm proud of the UK's armed forces. I'm proud of the UK's leadership. I'm proud of the UK's commitment to our allies. We will back you. We will defend you. We will fight with you in this new era of threat and hard power. Thank you.
Good morning. It's an early morning and of course a very important day for us. We will have an overview how the situation is with the defense spendings. Estonia has gone already to more than 5% with the core defense spendings starting from January this year. We will stay there and even go close to 6% in 2-3 years. So we are doing what we promised. Not only 3.5 but 5% of core defense, and of course we would like to see that everyone will do its share, and it's important for us to get these capabilities we need to have the executability of the plans and also the capability targets. So this is first. Secondly, of course, Ukraine. We have Ukraine Council, and for us it is very important to remind to all of us that even despite European Union is doing something, also the NATO has to do a lot. We have to support Ukraine. There is a discussion about the next packages of the Pearl, but also that we have front-loaded already many activities. We would like to see that everyone will front-load as much as we can to support Ukraine. And of course, looking at Ukraine and Russia negotiations, and then at the moment it seems that Russia is struggling, so everything we can do also to push Russian shadow fleet to work with the sanctions, but this is more for the European Union, that Russia is struggling a lot. So we published also 2 days ago our foreign intelligence annual report. I suggest to read, and then we are publishing a bit how Russia is struggling at the moment in the economy, in the banking sector. So these are the main topics, and definitely a lot more will be discussed. So please, some questions.
Is Arctic Centre going to be enough to satisfy the US administration?
Very good. Arctic Centre is, of course, also in the top in our agenda, and I'm very glad that yesterday it was officially launched. But we also have to understand that doesn't take away the focus from Ukraine, from the eastern flank, from Baltic Centre, Eastern Centre. But regarding the Arctic Centre, let's be very clear that when one of the allies feels that the other allies have to contribute to some region security, then we need to do that. So and of course Estonia also said that we are ready to contribute to the Arctic security. We were part of the planning group also for the Arctic Endurance, what was the Danish exercise. And well, for us it is important to give the confirmation and certainty also to our American colleagues and friends that if they feel threatened, then we are with them. So as we have been always, even after 9/11, and also many Estonian troops and many Estonian soldiers lost their lives during these missions. So this is important for us to be together, and transatlantic relations are extremely important.
What do the problems in the Russian banking sector mean for Ukraine and security rules in Europe?
Well, we clearly understand that it's not only the battlefield where Russia needs to be pressured. It's also the economy, it's also the society, because only internally the change can come in Russia. So of course, when the influx of money to the war machine will be reduced, then this will have an impact also on the battlefield, as it has an impact to cut the Starlink, for instance. So everything we do collectively to pressure Russia is good. So last question. So well, actually, we don't have anyone, so you can have some more questions.
Minister.
NATO has plans, regional plans. We have capability targets. Each one will do its role. I have not heard from any American politician or military personnel that America for the United States. It is. They have always said that. Personally, to me, Pete has said that many times, also here in the room. So I would not draw a lot of conclusions from one meeting, but I'm very, very confident. And I had a meeting also yesterday with Mark Rutte, and we discussed also that topic, and we both understand very similarly that US is an important ally, and Europe is important for US as US is important for Europe. So last question. So,
Minister, your country contributes a lot to Ukraine. Others in NATO don't, like France, for instance, with the program. Aren't you frustrated by these situations? And what is your message to these countries?
Yes, Estonia is doing a lot, and we've done that from the very beginning from the war. So we sent the javelins even before the full-scale war started. This helped a lot for Ukrainians to maintain and to keep Kiev. Since that, we've basically contributed at least 0.25. What we have said also from the very beginning, that by calculation this is the minimum what we have to do. Of course, we've had also different overviews. Now also we have the very good overview about the assistance to Ukraine. Of course, we would like to see that fair share, burden sharing is something that everyone understands, that everyone will contribute, because Ukraine's security at the moment is still the important one to have the Europe secure. So I'm not frustrated, but of course I will talk to my colleagues that everybody should do their fair share, and we are all standing for the same thing, which is the free Europe and free Ukraine. Thank you very much.
So, good morning. I'm Rutte, Minister of National Defence in Romania and the Vice Prime Minister for the Romanian government. I think that the messages should be very clear. We are here to act. We are not here to wait. And also, I'm here in order to push our national defence industry in the first rows. Why? Because it's very clear that all the European Union need to scale the production, need to extend the production. And by extending the production, we should and we could do this if we can put in the same room all the capabilities from all the other countries. European Union, the European Commission provided in the meantime some financial instruments, like it is SAFE now, like it was ASAP, but it's very clear that not always only the money can solve the problem, because the main situation and the main constraint is the speed. Speed is the key right now. And in Romania, for example, by using SAFE mechanism, we will bring to life some governmental national companies from the defense industry. And once those companies are brought to life and we introduce some new technology in those companies should contribute and could contribute in some European production chain. And by extending the European production chain, it's very clear that we can extend the production for the entire European Union. Yes, inside the European Union, yes, in collaboration with NATO, yes, in strong relation with the United States, but having in mind one very clear aspect. Europe should be able to protect Europe.
What will be your contribution to the Arctic Century?
We'll analyze, it was just announced. We are in the same time on the eastern flank, and we are asking for a fair distribution of resources along the eastern flank. We know how the situation was with Russia on our territories, and I think it's very important to protect the entire border, also the north, also the east, and contributing with everything we can in the zones where the situation is more stringent for those countries. So I think it's a good thing that it was announced that North-centric. We will analyze in the next period how we can contribute also into that North-centric, but the hot point on our side is the eastern flank, but the entire eastern flank from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea.
Do you have any indications that it could cost capabilities to the Eastern Century?
No, I do not have some information for the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
NATO-Treffen. Frühjahr, danach ist er zwar nicht, aber unser Frühjahrs-NATO-Treffen der Verteidigungsminister fokussiert sich zum einen auf das, was jetzt ist, aber auch schon auf den NATO-Gipfel in Ankara. Und die NATO-Länder haben in den letzten 1,5 Jahren deutlich nachgelegt, gerade die Europäer, was ihre Rüstungs- und Verteidigungsausgaben angeht. Deutschland, das wissen Sie, wird alleine in diesem Jahr 108 Milliarden Euro für die Verteidigung ausgeben. Damit bauen wir unsere Fähigkeiten mit hoher Schlagzahl aus. Und ich freue mich sehr, dass das eben auch Auswirkungen hat auf eines unserer wichtigsten multilateralen Kooperationsprojekte, ELSA, European Long Range Strike Approach. Wir steigen ein mit einer Unterzeichnung heute eines Abkommens in die Produktion von Drohnen und Loitering Ammunition mit einer Reichweite von 500 Kilometern. Die werden interoperabel sein, das heißt, wir können gemeinsam warten, beschaffen, üben und weiterentwickeln. Das ist wichtig angesichts der Herausforderungen, die vor uns liegen. Wir zeichnen, wie gesagt, heute eine Vereinbarung dazu und damit steigen wir in die nächste ganz wichtige Phase dieses Projekts ELSA ein. Und damit stärken wir, und darum geht es in diesen Tagen mehr denn je, die konventionellen europäischen Abschreckungs- und Verteidigungsfähigkeiten innerhalb der NATO. Ein weiteres Thema heute und in den kommenden Wochen bis zum Gipfel und dort dann selbst auch wird sein der 360-Grad-Ansatz, den ich immer wieder propagiere, von dem ich immer wieder spreche. Ich glaube, es wird Zeit, dass wir unsere Radarsysteme der NATO in alle Himmelsrichtungen ausrichten, ohne dabei zu vergessen, dass Schwerpunkt natürlich die Ostflanke der NATO bleibt. Daran führt kein Weg vorbei. Aber klar muss eben auch sein, Russland ist in vielen Teilen der Welt unterwegs und Russland sucht die Konfrontation eben auch in anderen Regionen, so wie zum Beispiel in der in den letzten Wochen aus bekannten Gründen zu Recht immer wieder im Gespräch befindlichen Arktis. Dem hohen Norden kommt dabei, das wissen Sie, eine besondere Bedeutung zu. Er ist gewissermaßen die Verbindung zwischen Nordmeer, Nordatlantik und Atlantik und damit ganz wesentlich, vor allen Dingen auch für die Versorgungswege zwischen Nordamerika und Europa. Das hat eine zentrale Bedeutung. Militärgeschichtlich, militärstrategisch wissen wir das seit dem Ersten Weltkrieg schon. Und die Tatsache, wer ist hier unterwegs, wer sichert für sich oder gegen andere diese Routen, ist von zentraler Bedeutung für die NATO-Staaten. Und deswegen ist Russland in der Arktis als stärkster maritimer Akteur etwas, womit wir uns beschäftigen müssen. Wir tun das auch seit Jahren schon. Und deswegen begrüße ich sehr, dass wir jetzt mit Arctic Sentry den nächsten Schritt machen. Als Bundeswehr waren wir wie andere NATO-Partner auch in der Vergangenheit immer wieder in der Arktis im Einsatz und haben dort geübt. Wir haben mit unseren Partnern an verschiedenen größeren und kleineren See- und Infanterieübungen teilgenommen. Und nicht zu vergessen die maritime Sicherheitspartnerschaft zwischen Kanada, Norwegen, Dänemark und Deutschland, von mir vor 1,5 Jahren initiiert. Wir sind mit Island im Gespräch. Viele Beteiligte interessieren sich für diese Partnerschaft, weil es um ein kooperiertes Vorgehen geht. Ich habe es gestern schon gesagt, Deutschland wird sich selbstverständlich an Arctic Sentry beteiligen. Wir haben dabei auch einiges zu bieten, wie Sie wissen, vom Seefernaufklärer P8 Poseidon, A400M, U-Boote, Fregatten, Eurofighter oder eben auch unsere Fähigkeiten zur Luftbetankung. Dann habe ich noch eine Mitteilung zu machen. Wir schauen heute nicht nur auf den NATO-Gipfel, meine Damen und Herren, sondern auch noch ein bisschen weiter. Sie wissen, dass im September die Spitze des NATO-Militärausschusses gewählt wird. Ich freue mich sehr, dass wir als Bundesrepublik Deutschland mit Generalinspekteur Carsten Breuer einen exzellenten Kandidaten für diesen Ausschuss haben. Gerade jetzt hat dieser ohnehin schon wichtige Vorsitz besondere Bedeutung. Und Deutschland und Europa haben in der NATO in den vergangenen Jahren erkennbar deutlich mehr Verantwortung übernommen. Und auch dafür steht General Carsten Breuer. Er hat in den vergangenen Jahren einen wesentlichen Beitrag dazu geleistet, die Verteidigungsfähigkeit Deutschlands voranzubringen. Ich arbeite ausgezeichnet mit ihm zusammen, sehr vertrauensvoll. Wir haben gemeinsam den Aufwuchs der Streitkräfte gewährleistet und die Fortschritte erzielt bei der Ausstattung der Soldatinnen und Soldaten. Auch hierbei war er ein wesentlicher Antreiber innerhalb der NATO. Auch das ist bekannt, hat sich General Breuer aufgrund seiner analytischen Fähigkeiten und seines Weitblicks gerade mit Blick auf die Bedrohungslage in Europa einen Namen gemacht und wird hoch geschätzt und hat deshalb zahlreiche Unterstützer. Ich bin sehr froh, dass ich mich mit dem Bundeskanzler und mit dem Außenminister dass wir uns sehr schnell darauf verständigt haben, Carsten Breuer zu nominieren. Das vielleicht auch von meiner Seite soweit. Und dann eine Bemerkung verbunden mit einer Bitte. Die Olympischen Winterspiele in Italien sind in vollem Gange. Und wer sich die deutschen Medaillenerfolge bis jetzt anguckt, der wird nicht umhin kommen festzustellen, dass entweder die Medaillen von deutschen Bundeswehrsoldaten, Sportsoldaten errungen wurden oder aber mindestens Bundeswehrsoldaten beteiligt waren an den Medaillen. Also keine Medaille, keine deutsche Medaille ohne Bundeswehr-Sportsoldaten. Was ich vermisse, ist in den deutschen Medien gelegentlich ein Hinweis darauf, dass es sich um Sportsoldaten handelt. Sie machen ihre Karriere bei der Bundeswehr, sie studieren oder machen eine Ausbildung. Und ich finde, Sie haben es verdient und die Bundeswehr auch, dass, so wie das in anderen Ländern auch üblich ist, darauf hingewiesen wird, dass es sich um Sportsoldaten handelt. Sie sind stolz darauf und ich bin es auch. Ich wäre Ihnen sehr dankbar, wenn Sie das gelegentlich berücksichtigen könnten.
Is the Arctic Sentry enough to satisfy US concerns over, is Arctic Sentry going to be enough to address US concerns over Greenland?
Well, it's not only about US concerns. These are mutual concerns about the security of the Arctic. And it's not only about Greenland, it's about particularly about the Arctic. So I'm absolutely convinced, given the fact that the NATO is leading this operation, this mission, that it would be enough for everybody.
Inwiefern ist denn Arctic Sentry mehr als eine bloße Umbenennung von bereits existierenden Manövern und Übungen?
Weil es das schlicht nicht ist. Es ist keine Umbenennung von irgendetwas. Es ist mehr. Mehr Partner beteiligen sich. Und das ist gut so. Ich habe vor 2 Jahren, als ich in Norwegen war, schon auf die Bedeutung der Arktis für uns als NATO, aber auch als Europäer hingewiesen. Von daher ist es folgerichtig jetzt, dass die NATO das tut. Und ich freue mich sehr darüber, dass sich so viele daran beteiligen.
Halten Sie den Konflikt mit Grönland jetzt mehr oder weniger entschärft?
Ja.
Herr Minister, die Umstrukturierung der NATO vergrößert den europäischen Einfluss auch bei den Sternen, bei den Generalssternen. Was bedeutet das für Deutschland? Was ist da Deutschlands Rolle und was kostet das Deutschland?
Die Frage nach dem, was es kostet, interessiert mich eigentlich, wenn ich ehrlich bin, am wenigsten, weil wir hier über Notwendigkeiten reden, unsere Rolle in der NATO sichtbar zu machen. Das ist auch Wille der NATO-Partner. Deutschland ist die größte Volkswirtschaft in Europa und der größte NATO-Partner eben in Europa auch. Von daher ist es folgerichtig, dass in dem Maße, in dem sich amerikanische Streitkräfte aus bestimmten Kommandostrukturen zurückziehen und diese quasi an die Europäer gehen, dass dann eben auch Deutschland seinen Part spielt. Und das tun wir in Abstimmung mit den Partnern.
Minister, we've just seen the American Undersecretary sort of slip in as you were talking. Pete Hegseth isn't coming to this conference. Are you disappointed? And do you think that Europe actually needs to genuinely be ready to defend itself, maybe without America?
No, I'm not disappointed. I know everybody, each of us has a full agenda. And one time the American Defence Minister is here and one time not. So it is his decision and his duties he has to fulfill. Anyway, and the role of the United States when it comes to the conventional deterrence and defense in Europe is quite clear. The history shows us, the history of the last decades, that the US took a lion's share of what has to be done for the European conventional deterrence and defense. And now the time has come that Europeans take over more and more, step by step, in the years to come. This is absolutely normal and natural. I understand and I support this direction. The main thing from my perspective is NATO and USA are member of NATO and they will remain member of NATO. But to keep this, in order to keep NATO transatlantic, it is necessary to make it more European, to take over more European responsibility, and at the same time being able to rely and to trust, and this is what we do, on the nuclear deterrence which has been provided for decades by the US.
Herr Minister, der ukrainische Präsident hat gestern gesagt, dass es für die Ukraine ein konkretes Datum für einen EU-Beitritt brauche, damit die Ukraine einen Friedensvertrag unterschreiben kann. Ist das für die Bundesregierung denkbar, dass es so ein konkretes Datum wirklich gibt für den EU-Beitritt der Ukraine?
Ein konkretes Datum ist immer denkbar, aber welches soll das sein? Also darüber wird zu reden sein, das macht man nicht zwischen Tür und Angel.
What are your expectations of today's UDCG meeting?
My expectations are quite clear. We need more support for Ukraine. What we are seeing in Ukraine is attacks by Russia, which has nothing to do with military strategy. It's just terrorism against the civilian population of Ukraine. So it is necessary to ramp up the support for Ukraine in terms of self-defense, priority 1, and self-defense, priority 2. So this is what we need to talk about today. My colleague, the Foreign Minister of Germany, and me, Joe Wadefull, we signed a letter yesterday, the third letter with regard to that, to all our allies and partners to support Ukraine more intensively, and again to have a look in the own stockpiles for what we can do, and if there is nothing left in the stockpiles which can be provided to Ukraine, it's about giving money. So like we did last year, we achieved 1 billion euros last year for procuring more air defense for Ukraine, and this is what we are going for once more with our letter.
Gibt es irgendetwas Konkretes, was Sie sich von der Münchner Sicherheitskonferenz erhoffen, erwarten?
Jetzt sind wir erstmal beim NATO-Treffen hier in Brüssel. Wir haben eine volle Agenda heute. Die Münchner Sicherheitskonferenz beginnt dann morgen. Ich freue mich, viele Kollegen aus der ganzen Welt wiederzusehen und hoffe auf eine gute Atmosphäre, die ganz klar adressiert, worauf es jetzt ankommt. Nämlich, dass die Welt, die demokratische Welt, die Welt, die sich der internationalen regelbasierten Ordnung verpflichtet fühlt, geschlossen bleibt, sich nicht auseinandertreiben lässt und ein klares Commitment abgibt zur Sicherheit aller.
Sir, do you think that concerns by Romania and other Eastern allies that Arctic sentry could hurt Eastern sentry and the defense of the eastern flank, are they justified?
I can understand that because it's clear if something happens like that, everybody is maybe concerned about anything could be done left in another place. But there's no reason for that. These are different operations, different missions, and each of them will be fulfilled.
Vielen Dank für Ihre Fragen.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Lithuanian Minister of National Defense, Mr. Robertas Kaunas.
Good morning, everyone. As Lithuania's defense minister, I want to be clear. NATO has had too many wake-up calls. Lithuania leads by example. We invest 5.38% of GDP to our core military needs, the highest level in all NATO countries, because there are no alternatives. We invest not because we want war. We invest because we want peace, and peace requires real military capacities. I encourage all NATO countries to meet 5% of GDP next year. Putin will not stop by itself. He must be stopped, and he understands only language of strength. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hello, good morning to see you all. And let me, by way of introducing, say, hey, I'm really looking forward to today's meeting with the defense ministers. It will be very much about the implementation of what we decided in The Hague. Ramping up Canada and Europe when it comes to defense spending. Across the alliance, making sure that the defense industrial base is producing the output we need to be able to deter and defend ourselves. And obviously Ukraine, where you just heard the good news from John Healey, the UK Defence Secretary of Defence, announcing £500 million in air defence, both bilateral and Pearl for Ukraine. And this is really important because Ukraine, as you know, they are really staunch, they are fighting back, but they are also still hit with missiles, etc., on their civilian infrastructure and innocent civilians. So this is important. But what you see overall is a picture of Canada and Europe stepping up, spending billions more on defense, ramping up the defense industrial base, keeping Ukraine strong. So I think this is very important. We will take stock today and then chart out the course towards our summit in The Hague. So I take a few questions because we will see each other later today at the press conference. Sir.
Secretary General, there's Arctic Sentry, Baltic Sentry, Eastern Sentry, Steadfast Dart. Norway is doing a cold response. Has there ever been so many NATO exercises planned in such a precise period of time as we're seeing right now?
Well, thank you for that question, because I'm not sure it is more than, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago, but it clearly shows you that the threat is there. The long-term Russian threat is there. And we should not be naive, by the way, about China. And when it comes to the Arctic, it is not only Russia. It is also China. We know that sea lanes are opening up, so we have to defend the Arctic and bring together all these various initiatives. And then charting a way ahead, making sure that we identify the gaps which are there, and then making sure that we can fill the gaps, and taking into account all the latest technologies through our Allied Command transformation. There's exactly evidence that NATO as a whole, the US, Canada, the European allies, are working hand in hand together to make sure that we defend every inch of NATO territory. Yes, sir.
You said yesterday that the US administration is fully aware of the situation in Ukraine.
Yes.
So aren't you a bit frustrated by the lack of pressure this administration is putting on?
I think that is not fair. Of course, you can ask me any question, but I think the statement within the question is not fair. The US is putting every pressure on Russia, as the Europeans are doing, through the sanction packages. Look what has been happening with Lukoil and Rosneft and all the other stuff the US is doing. The US is still delivering crucial air defense and other lethal weapons into Ukraine through this Pearl program, so paid for by Canadian, European allies and partners. And the US is leading the peace effort. And there is only one country, the most powerful nation on earth, the US, which can do that under the leadership of President Trump, breaking the deadlock with Putin, getting the peace process going. So I really think the US is doing exactly what we need when it comes to Ukraine.
Greenland question off the table now.
Well, what I discussed in Davos, but also what we discussed within Europe, with our partners in Canada, our allies in Canada and the United States, is that we have to defend the Arctic. This is Greenland, but also the whole Arctic. And the good news, I think, yesterday is with the launch of Arctic Sentry that we will now bring together all the assets which we have currently available in the Arctic, getting the whole picture, getting NORAD involved, US NORSCOM involved, EUCOM involved, and all the European allies together to make sure that we defend the Arctic against, as I said, the opening up of sea lanes, Russia increasingly active there, but also China.
Are you actually concerned, Secretary General, that this renewed focus on the Arctic could pull focus somewhat from NATO's eastern flank?
No, NATO is so strong that we can do both, and we have to basically have a 360-degree approach to any threat against NATO territory. And Eastern Sentry, making sure that our eastern flank is secure and strong, and we have seen the drone incursions in Poland early September. We have seen what happened in Estonia a couple of weeks later in September with the MIRT from Russia into Estonian airspace. So we have to make sure that we defend every inch of Allied territory. So Eastern Sentry is important, Baltic Sentry, making sure that we protect the undersea sea cables and critical infrastructure, but of course also the Arctic. And this is Greenland, but also the rest of the Arctic, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark through Greenland, Iceland, Canada and the US, focusing of course primarily on the area where our Supreme Allied Commander is working with.
Sure. European allies are buckling up now for a while for the US posture review. Do you think Bridge Colby today will have a reassuring message that it won't be as bad, as big, as fast as expected?
Well, what I see happening over the last year is the US and Bridge Colby has been important here because he has always been an advocate of Europe stepping up. The US leadership team under the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Hagsett, Secretary Rubio, indeed also Under Secretary Colby, they have always consistently pleaded for Europe doing more, Canada doing more, taking more care of the defense of NATO territory, of course in conjunction with the United States. And I predict that longer term you will see, of course, the nuclear umbrella as the ultimate guarantor of our security here in Europe and Canada, but also a strong conventional presence of the US here in Europe, which is crucial. We all know this. And NATO is not only there to protect Europe and Canada, it's also there to protect the United States. And for the United States to be secure, you need a strong and secure Arctic, a secure Europe, but also a secure Atlantic. So we are in this together. This is how this alliance was founded 77 years ago in 1949. Final question, and then we'll see each other at the...
Are you expecting tension in the room today between Denmark and the US over Greenland, or have you managed to sort of ease the alliance through that crisis? And are you disappointed that Pete Hegseth isn't coming? Is that a signal that the US actually isn't that interested in its transatlantic bond?
Well, on the first question, what I'm seeing is that as an alliance, we came together to discuss this threat assessment when it comes to the Arctic, which is, yes, Greenland, but also the whole of the Arctic area. So including our new members, our new allies from Sweden and Finland, who bring a lot of experience when it comes to this. Take Norway, which has been in the alliance for so long, I think from the start, if I'm right. But Norway bringing this incredible experience and knowledge when it comes to the protection of the High North. I know this because Dutch Marines have always been training there. So not personally having that knowledge, but my brother and knowing my friends who were training there in cold weather conditions. So we have that collective experience in NATO that we have to defend the Arctic. This is what the Greenland discussion was about, but also the wider Arctic discussion is about. And I think with Arctic Sentry and the trilateral talks ongoing between Greenland, Denmark and the United States, this is all important to make sure that we prevent Russia and China from getting access, but also to protect the whole region. And when it comes to Secretary Hagsett, I mean, I'm in regular contact with him and all the senior officials in the United States. Of course, the American president, #1, the overall leader of the US, but also his whole foreign leadership and defense Secretary of War leadership team. But hey, they have to take care of the whole world. This is the United States. NATO is very important, but there is also the Western Hemisphere. There's also the Indo-Pacific. I totally accept it, agree with it. And I had dinner last night with Bridge Colby. I think he has been a consistent voice of, hey, Europe, do more. Because as a United States, we also have to pivot more towards the Indo-Pacific. Let's make sure that collectively we keep Europe strong and Canada and the United States, so NATO territory. But also make sure that we keep our eyes on the Indo-Pacific and not be naive about China. So having him today in the room, I think is really having added value. So I'm happy he is here. I totally accept Pete Hegseth also having to take care of all these other responsibilities. Thank you so much, and we will see each other later today at the presser around 3 o'clock. Yes. Thanks. Bye.
Bonjour à toutes et tous. Mes premiers mots seront évidemment pour rappeler l'attachement de la France à l'OTAN. Alors vous l'avez vu, cet attachement, il se décline de manière extrêmement concrète. Nous sommes actuellement nation cadre en Roumanie pour une opération de l'OTAN. Nous sommes aux côtés de nos amis britanniques en Estonie et bien évidemment la France sera engagée aux côtés de l'OTAN pour Arctic Sentry, comme bien sûr nous avons également été au moment du Groenland autour d'Arctic Endurance. Et derrière toutes ces démarches de l'OTAN, je veux immédiatement penser au sujet de ce matin qui va être notre soutien à l'Ukraine. J'étais samedi en Ukraine. J'ai eu l'occasion, bien sûr, de rencontrer le président Zelensky. J'ai eu l'occasion de travailler avec mon nouveau collègue, Monsieur Fedorov, avec lequel j'ai pu mesurer évidemment l'engagement des Ukrainiens et rappeler l'engagement des Européens que nous sommes, qu'il s'agisse d'accompagnement en matière, bien sûr, d'armement, mais qu'il s'agisse aussi de la capacité à être aux côtés des Ukrainiens qui aujourd'hui sont les leaders en matière de production de drones et qui veulent s'engager dans des échanges constructifs. Et ces échanges constructifs, nous les mènerons également dans le cadre de la coalition des volontaires pour les garanties de sécurité. Vous savez que le siège de la coalition des volontaires, l'OHQ, est à Paris. Et enfin, en ce qui concerne l'OTAN, je voudrais évidemment insister sur l'importance que nous avons à travailler les uns avec les autres et à nous engager durablement. Et c'est le sens des discussions que nous aurons ce matin avec ce pilier européen. Vous vous souvenez qu'il y a 4 mois, ici, Pitexet disait « les Européens devront être en capacité d'assumer leur sécurité ». Eh bien, nous allons le faire, nous avons commencé à le faire et c'est le sens des discussions que nous aurons, je n'en doute pas, ce matin. Hier, nous étions ministres européens de la Défense réunis ici à Bruxelles et beaucoup d'entre nous ont évoqué ce sujet. C'est cela l'engagement du pilier européen de l'OTAN. Merci à toutes et tous.
Madame la ministre,
merci beaucoup.
let's start with the handshake. Okay. Hey, good morning again.
To see you. Yes.
Good to see you. Hi. Good morning. I'm really happy that Under Secretary for Brits Colby is here today. He has been a consistent voice over the years for Europe and Canada to really step up when it comes to defense spending, when it comes to defense industrial production. Absolutely acknowledging the fact that the United States, being absolutely committed to NATO, also has to take care of the situation in the Pacific and has to pivot over time more towards the Indo-Pacific. And therefore, Europe and Canada stepping up is really crucial. Of course, since President Trump was re-elected, the whole American leadership team, under the leadership of President Trump, has been pleading with NATO and European and Canadian allies to do more. And the good news is, the billions are coming in. I mentioned yesterday Germany spending in 2029 152 billion, 152 billion euros, which is double what they spent in 2021. So it is really happening. And that's crucial. So President Trump's leadership, Secretary Hagsted's leadership, your leadership in all of this is highly recognized. We are very happy to have you here today, sir, in the meeting, and we are really anxious to listen to you and have a great discussion. But again, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. It's an honor to be here to represent the Department of War and Secretary Hegseth. And I think I'll just reiterate what the Secretary General said with President Trump's and the Secretary General's historic leadership. I think 2025, you saw a reframing and a real genuine commitment because of the President's leadership and the SecGen's leadership to actually have a Europe that leads the conventional defense of NATO, which in a sense, as I'm going to say today, is really a return to NATO 1.0. This is a serious alliance focused on defense and deterrence, and it's greatly thanks to your leadership, Mr. Secretary General. And so I think this year we actually have a good message to say, which is now it's time to march out together, to be pragmatic, to be focused on the kind of flexible realism that the national security strategy and the national defense strategy are based on and really exhibit. And I think we have a really strong basis for working together in partnership, but putting NATO kind of a 3.0 NATO that's based a partnership rather than dependency, and really a return to what NATO was originally intended for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay. Thanks.
Morning. I'm very, very happy to be here. Belgium supporting Arctic Sentry. It's a very good day that we're making in a NATO operation out of it, another European operation. I think it's good that we work together and that we stop having some food fights over the Atlantic. It's better to work together, so it's a good day for NATO that we launched today Arctic Sentry. And Belgium is always ready to help and to also collaborate on this operation. So good thing. On the forward mobility enablement, Belgium will take its lead as a host nation. With Antwerp, Bruges, Zeebrugge, we have one of the biggest ports of Europe, so it's very important that we help NATO, help American, British, Canadian troops to also get that forward mobility at the right time, at the right place, at the east frontier of the NATO territory. So also on forward mobility and enablement, Belgium will take the lead together with the Netherlands and Germany. So that's also something that is going really fast, and that's also positive. Thank you.
Different fights across the Atlantic, Minister. Do you think this Arctic Sentry would be enough to satisfy the US?
it has been concluded with the US. So.
Good morning. Good morning, all of you, and welcome to this meeting of NATO Defence Ministers. Today we will address how we are further strengthening and adapting our deterrence and defence, and of course continuing our support for Ukraine. We are already seeing significant increases in Allied defence spending. Investment is up by tens of billions, and we will review progress on the 5% defence investment commitment agreed in The Hague last year. We will discuss enhancing our deterrence and defence posture. That includes integrated air and missile defence, strengthening our command and control, improving our readiness, as well as our ability to deploy and sustain forces through host nation support. We will also take stock of our work to enhance the defence industrial base across the alliance, to ensure that our militaries have the capabilities they need to keep our people safe. All this is essential for our shared security across the alliance, from the south to the high north and Arctic, from the east to the west. NATO is always on duty to deter and defend. This is why we have just launched Arctic Sentry, giving Russia's increased military activity and China's growing interest in the high north. We will also discuss our continued support for Ukraine. As the United States continues to drive efforts to bring the war to a just and lasting end, Russia continues to pursue civilian targets, including energy infrastructure. So it is still essential that allies continue to step up support, including through NATO's Pearl initiative. It is ensuring that essential US equipment is delivered to Ukraine, paid for by allies and partners. This afternoon we will hold a meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council. We will be joined by Defence Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, and he will brief us on the situation on the ground and on Ukraine's long-term needs. We will also be joined by the Office of the EU High Representative, as we work closely with the European Union on Ukraine and, of course, on so many other issues. Ukraine's security is linked with our own. We must ensure that when this war ends, Russia will never try again to invade Ukraine. This concludes this public part of our meeting. I want to thank the media for joining us, which means, could you please leave the room? Thank you.